morning, day 4. The energy levels are rising, not even falling. Fantastic, fantastic. How nice is that? Morning, everybody. So, some of you had a good night's sleep, right? Yeah. Fantastic. How are we feeling? Are we okay? Happy? Okay, good, good. You know, it seems a long time ago since Tuesday, right? There's so much being covered, but we're not finished yet. There is still a lot more going on today. So much more activity between now and when we pull everything together and think about connecting back to our countries, our communities, our networks when we wrap up today at 1 o'clock. So before we do that, there are still a couple of opportunities, I think, that I keep getting requests to do the wheel, right? So, so does anybody want to spin that wheel? Should we have a kind of see if we can hear from maybe a couple of other people? So let's spin the wheel, please, and let's see who's going to come up. You can get ready with microphones. Okay. Did we have collect before? Yeah. Okay. Let's do it again. Let's do it again. Let's do it. Ruth? Okay, and again, let's go, let's go, let's go. Mohammed Sheikh. Is Mohammed Sheikh here? He's here, okay. So, Mohammed, now, I've got a couple of questions. You know how this works now, right? Because you've been here all week. So, our invitation is to say where you've come from, but also, what have you learned this week? What have you enjoyed as part of the summit this week?
Okay. Good morning.
Morning, morning.
Morning. Morning. What's wrong? I want to get breakfast. Okay, Jumbo.
Not yet.
Jumbo.
Okay, my name. I hope you can see. I am from Kenya. What I learned this a couple of days. Actually, a lot of things. Interactions. I had a lot of things on how to build country networks and many experience from across the globe from the members of GNDR globally. And actually I have more to tell because of time factor, but I have no time to tell you more experience again. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mohammed. Fantastic. Welcome, welcome, welcome. And there's still time to talk during the rest of this morning, so keep it going. Let's have one more if we can. Can we spin that wheel? And let's hear back from somebody else. Let's get the tables going. Let's do some drumming on the tables as it goes. Here we go. Here we go. Belisario. Where's Belisario? Yes. Okay, Belisario, we need a microphone. Belisario's been with us all week. Led a session all the way back earlier in the week. So thank you for doing that. So first of all, where you're from, and any reflections on the week?
I'm from Colombia, and this is an opportunity for me to say thank you for letting me share this week with you. It's been a privilege to meet so many people with so much knowledge and experience. For me, the objectives for this week was to listen and to network and to learn. And I learned so much. And thank you very much for that, for sharing all that knowledge and experience.
Fantastic. Thank you, Belisario. Fantastic. Thank you. Wonderful to have you. Let's do one more. Let's get the drums going on the tables. Who's going to be? Lorraine. We heard from Lorraine, right? Lorraine, okay. And we met Lorraine yesterday, but not in this particular section. Okay, Lorraine, so where you're from? Just a reminder of where you're from.
Of course, from the Philippines.
Oh, from the Philippines. And any final reflections on how this week has been for you?
It's been very fruitful and meaningful, getting to meet a lot of members in different parts of the world. I've learned a lot from the field visit to the many sessions that I have been with, and I think real partnership and collaboration would only work when we really invest time and effort in it.
Wonderful. Thank you, Lorraine. Good message to finish on there. This kind of challenging collaboration. Thank you. Wonderful. Okay, if we have some more time, then we'll do the wheel. Go on, I'm seeing somebody just with your hand up there. So we'll just jump in. And if there's more time later, we'll do a couple more wheels.
I want to thank everybody who organized this meeting and who came here. I'm sure now that we are stronger together. Before the summit, I was looking for a drop of water, but now I'm in the middle of ocean of friends. Thank you, and let's look for the future.
What a wonderful message. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. And there is still lots more to come this morning, okay? So very shortly we're going to have a fascinating session, a really interesting session around views from the frontline activities. Many of you have been heavily involved in that program, and it's had such an impact in various parts of the world. So I'm really looking forward to seeing some of the video and hearing from some panelists and exploring not just what's been done, but also opportunities for the future. So we're going to hear about Frontline in a minute. And there are also a number of other things that continue to go on today. So Lucy's just going to headline some of those.
Yeah, there's a lot of activity online. We've had a lot of people following the live stream. A lot of you around the room are tweeting and writing your comments on Facebook, so please do continue. So a reminder of the hashtags, hashtag GNDR Summit, hashtag Connecting Communities, and please do tag us on Twitter. That's our tag there at Global Network DR. You might want to ask a question, raise a comment, post a photo. We're also encouraging the continuation of some of the selfie videos that some of you are recording and putting on Facebook. So please do that. And at the break today, and in the break today, we have 3 really interesting speakers at Speakers Corner. We have Dharma talking about DRR and older people. We have Ayuwamu talking about beekeeping as a way of sustainable development and poverty reduction in Benin. That sounds really interesting. And Zakir talking about the pain and joy of a local disaster practitioner. So please do head over there at the break and enjoy the day.
Fantastic. Okay, so we will be, as you'll see from your programs, we're going to have a frontline session now. Then we'll be, before we break, and I have a request for you, before we break after the frontline session, we would love to do a photograph of everybody together. And the logistical challenge of that will be left to our wonderful photographer, Jeff, whose challenge is to try and get everybody in a photo. So don't go to the break before we've done our photo together, and we'll coordinate that, but we'll be taking that on the stage. And before that, Anoni's going to share a few words as we reflect a little bit on the past. And then we'll be looking to the future. After the break, there will be a number of different activities taking place outside of this room. Once again, everything is on your program. And then we will come back together before lunch to share our final reflections and some thank yous and say a few words before we depart. So that's the plan for this morning. So I'm going to hand over to Lorna Victoria, who's been leading on the Frontline program. And she's going to lead a very interactive session. Get ready to do some work, get ready for some activities, get ready to hear from different voices. So, Lorna, over to you.
Good morning. Buenos dias. How do you say it in French? Bonjour. 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 So, good morning again. So, this will be a very long session, but a very interesting session. We have 1.5 hours divided into 4 parts. You will not be bored. Definitely, you will not be bored. So, the Views from the Frontline has been the long-standing project of GNDR since 2007 when we started. Immediately, we had the Views from the Frontline, monitoring then of the Yogo Framework for Action in 2009. We already presented at the global platform in Geneva the results of the Views from the Frontline in 2009. We said there were a lot of commitments, indicators made by the local and national and international community for disaster risk reduction. But at the local level, we see just clouds, but no rain yet. So that made really a mark. And every global platform, we've been presenting the results of the views from the front line, actions at the front line, and the front line that we have just ended with funding facility from OFDA. So this morning, we start with an introductory activity. Can I call the views from the front line pilot team? So I'm the coordinator for the pilot project being piloted in Tonga in the Philippines. So may I call on Grace, Grace Molina from the Center for Disaster Preparedness, our VFL coordinator for the Philippines. And where is Naa? Naa, where are you? Come, Naa, they are very colorful as always and so pretty. You will be mesmerized by these ladies, how they work with the communities. Very, very hardworking, but also very, very participatory and energizing the process. So, Naa and Grace will facilitate with you a sample of the survey done in the community. Actually, these are not surveys as the regular surveys that you would think of. They are conversations, dialogues among community members, dialogues with the local government officers, with civil society. So we are facilitating dialogue, and as we are dialoguing, we are now noting their answers which are risk information, but this risk information is not just sent to the national and global levels. These are also used for action planning at the local level, and the national level, this improves now policies and practice. So it was very important that we, in the views from the front line now, we have random surveys, they say for credibility, so we're targeting 95% confidence and plus and minus 2, sure, confidence level. So interval levels so that we have a high confidence level of research, aside from, of course, getting the views of the most vulnerable populations. So we have community consultations, focus group discussions, and also interviews with CSOs and interviews with local government officers which we have done in the front line before. So on your desk, you have very colorful things. First to look at is something like orangey, not really pink, this, and it has a tag of facilitator. First, a half page, this color, which says facilitator. So the facilitator, we need a facilitator for the community consultations or focus group discussions. Somebody who will listen to you, to what you are saying, somebody to record it, and also to count. We will be voting, but not similar to Andy's high technology voting. We will be voting community style, raising hands, but also you have colorful voting devices with you there. So everything is very colorful as our lives are very colorful. So, the first in your agenda is to pick a facilitator. The facilitator will not vote. The facilitator will facilitate your discussion. So you have questionnaires also on your table for the French-speaking people, the groups. You have French questionnaire. For the Spanish-speaking groups, you have a Spanish questionnaire. And for those in English, you have the English questionnaire. So you can have a facilitator among you. So it doesn't matter if it's a male or a female. Record keeping is not just the domain of the female. So men can also be facilitators. And then just to listen, encourage you to speak out, and then record the conversations. So, have you chosen a facilitator? So, that paper which says facilitator has like a stick-on thing. So, you peel the back. At the back, you will see, two adhesive tapes. You can stick it in your ID so that they will know that you are the facilitator. And you will also be reminded of your role as facilitator. As a role as facilitator, are we doing all the talking? No. We are encouraging our members to speak. And we are listening and recording. Okay? So, put your facilitator tag on your ID. You can stick it with a sticky tape at the back. Okay? Done? Done? Stick it out. So done? Okay, so I turn you now over to these colorful ladies.
Thank you, Ms. Lorna. So imagine that you are all from the community, okay, and that we are here to facilitate the community survey or community consultation. So first, let me thank you for contributing to the BFL by participating in this community consultation. Communities, members of civil society, and local government all over the world are providing information that can help better plan and prepare for threats in the future in their own communities. Once we have collected the information, we'll make it public to help you plan what can be done to bring about positive changes in your community. We will also use the information to feed into national government and international monitoring instruments such as the Sunday Framework for DRR, the Sustainable Development Goals, and the Paris Agreement. So to start the survey, I will now turn over you to Nana.
Sorry, this microphone doesn't work. In every survey paper, survey form, your facilitator's got it in front of you in your table. It should have a consent form. That consent form is supposed to be signed by everyone to agree that they really wanted to participate into your survey. So when you continue on, the first part on your participant's profile, these questions are all in the 4 survey forms: the community consultation, your local government, your CSO surveys, and also your random survey. So, name of the group, actually this means that if you're doing a community consultation, there should be 3 different groups in there. You will bring in women differently, men differently, and youth and children differently. This is because you needed to hear their voice differently. If you bring them up all together in one room, the man will dominate most of the questions. In some cultures like us, when men speak, we become so silent, and your youth follow as well. So we put them up into different groups, so you can actually hear their voices. So name of the group means, if it's a man's group, you put a man's group there. If it's a women's group, you put a women's group there. And if it's youth, you put a youth there. Number of participants in a survey group. It all depends on how many people you have in your community consultation. If you have 10 people inside the group, you put 10 in there. If you have 9, just 9. 8, well, that's it. Informant age, in this part, you'll ask them to raise their hand. Raise your hand if you're in the age of 14 to 17, which I expected to be in the youth or children's group. Not when you have your man's group there, and you have a 14 or 17-year-old in there. You ask them nicely, please, wait for the next group. Wait for your children or youth group. 18 to 24, and so the other ages in there. You just make them raise their hand. Who is in between these ages? Gender? Of course you will know the gender. Either you're male or female, or others in there means, you know you have all these... Hello, are you okay today? No? Okay, that should be in the others. And if you have attended a previous VFL, like, well, I have never attended, this is the first time I ever participated in one. Or you were in 2009, just raise your hand. Those of you who are in VFL 2009? Well, okay, I've got 4. VFL 2011? I got 1. VFL 2013? I got 2. And then Frontline program, you got 2. Well, that's how you fill it up.
I see it.
Facilitator, I think it's about time you fill up your form. Ask your group members for the first page. And if you have any questions, you can actually ask me. Or you're too mesmerized with my flowers that you did not have the chance to fill up your paper. Is that the case? I think so. Yes? Yes, unfortunately on a community consultation you'll be in different groups. But for today's exercise, you're in one group. I'll give you 1 minute. That should be fast. I know you've got a limited of people in your group, so you should be able to complete it in reasonable time. And we don't have that much time, you know. And we don't want to keep the community inside the hole where they feel, we want to go home, I've got a fishing expedition to go to. So I don't have all day. I'm actually coming around the table. If you have any questions, please raise your hand. I can come around and help you.
Hello, are you done with the first part? Okay. Facilitators, can you check if the participant's profile section is already filled up? Yes? All the tables? So, okay, so let's now proceed with the second part of the survey. Actually, this section focuses on your experiences with threats and risks. And the questions on this section are from the random survey we conducted in the household level. Okay, so we have 3 questions for this section, and facilitators, could you please count the number of participants' answers by show of hands? Okay, so here are the 3 questions. So, first question, in the past, were you affected by any adverse event that made you ask for external help to fully recover? So you have 2 options, yes or no. So that's the first question. When you think about the event, it could cover different hazards. It could also be a socio-economic risk or threat. It can also be related to health, to political conditions in your country or in your community. So do not only focus on the environmental related hazards or threats, but you should also think about other events or scenarios that have an adverse impact on your community. So for the second question, how much time did it take to recover physically, mentally, and financially? So for this question, you have 3 options: less than a year, more than a year, and no full recovery possible. Okay? And the last question, are you aware of the existence of a government DRR or CCA plan covering your community? So the options are yes or no. So facilitators, you can now ask your members or participants to answer these 3 questions.
Because in that multiple questions can be approached. I mean, you're asking 3 different things in just one question. Because I might take maybe 6 months to recover financially, but maybe 10 years to recover mentally, and then 5 years to whatever. So that's a multiple question, and maybe we can just write down, or just provide some feedback or something. So people will tend to answer either the shorter one or the longest count participants, lost friends in your communities. How have disaster losses, lives, assets, livelihoods, etc. changed in the last 5 to 10 years? Disasters losses, have they decreased significantly?
Is everyone done?
Decreased a little? Decreased?
So we will now proceed to the third part, which focuses on loss trends. So we will only have one question for this section, so listen carefully. In your communities, how have disaster losses in terms of lives, assets, livelihoods changed in the last 5 to 10 years? So in answering this question, you will be using a rating scale of 1 to 5. 1 means decreased significantly, 2 means decreased a little, 3 means remained the same, 4 means increased a little, and then 5 means increased significantly. Okay, so facilitators, you can now start answering this section. You can start using the voting cards. I think it would be easier for the facilitator to get the responses from the team, from the group.
Decrease the life of slaves and increase the loss of assets. How we can
It's totally lost. Not just